Hello, friends. It's great meeting you again in this program of electrical awareness. This evening, I come with a new episode that concerns the consumer unit. But before we continue, I would wish to encourage you to subscribe, to share, like this channel as usual. Now, we are talking about consumers or consumers control unit. Basically known as consumer unit. This is the control unit of a household. And now, I know you may have encountered these words, especially in the contemporary world, as opposed to the previous times, we used to have the fuse boxes and fuses. Nowadays, it is consumers control unit. This name has been known to many because it has some components. As opposed to fuses, it has the circuit breakers. So before you continue, first of all, what a consumer unit is a place where the electricity enters to your house. That is a box where electricity enters to your house. For a layman's language, that is a consumer unit. This consumer unit is not just a place where electricity enters your house, but it is a control place, Also, it is a protective place for both you and your equipment in your house. And so this makes me introduce to you what components are there in the consumer unit. Number one, it is the main switch or the double pole breaker. Double pole breaker is where the sub-mains, the wires or the cable coming from the meter box enters to the consumer unit. First of all, it enters to that main switch or the double pole breaker. From there now, it is terminated to the circuit breakers. So the next component of the circuit breaker of the consumer unit rather is the circuit breakers. Nowadays, apart from the main switch, which could be the double pole or the circuit breakers or the MCCB or the MCB, sorry for that, the MCB, we have another third component which is called the RCD. Now, that should be the third one, but it is not mainly used. The RCD is not commonly used. So we shall concentrate today on the double pole breaker and the circuit breaker, MCB, miniature circuit breaker. Now, the circuit breakers or the MCB, they control or prevent overload or a circuit or a short circuit. They prevent what we call in one word, the overcurrent that could be responsible for some dangers, that could be responsible for destruction in the house. Overcurrent is caused by the short circuit and the overload. When you overload the circuit, for example, if you have a circuit breaker rated at a given rate and then you load it with more appliances that could be more than the rated one, this will make your circuit breaker to trip severally. And so if you insist on putting it on manually, it could catch fire or get destroyed. And so basically this MCB is used for protection and prevention of preventing your equipment from getting spoiled or getting damaged by a faulty electrical supply. So that is the work of the circuit breaker. Apart from it protecting it, we know it is just automatic, it protects automatically. Apart from it protecting it automatically, should you sense of any danger, then you will be able to put it off manually also because it has a switch, it has a gear that can help to put it off manually. So this is what you can use to put off electricity manually for a specific circuit. because all circuit breakers are assigned differently to serve different circuits. We have lighting circuit, we have the sockets, we have socket outlets, that is, we have the cooker outlets, and we have the water heaters, we have the circuits for fans, different circuits. Every circuit breaker is for a different circuit. And so if you have noticed something that is not normal in any circuit, so you go for that labeled circuit breaker for the relevant circuit and then switch it off for maintenance, or switch it off and wait for the electrician to come and help you sort the problem out. Okay, enough of that. We go to maintaining your electrical consumer unit. This thing sounds unlikely because most of us do not know anything about maintenance. It is not even considered by many of us. Maintaining the consumer unit is something that is not done by many of us. Now, this thing, on the contrary to our norm, must regularly be maintained. We have to maintain this circuit breaker regularly. The circuit breakers and the consumer unit generally has to be maintained. Should you experience any issue with your system flow, follow the following tips then. A, know the danger signs. Before embarking on any kind of maintenance, can you know the danger signs? One of it in the category of danger signs is regular tripping of MCBs. Regular tripping of MCBs. So if a particular MCB, a particular circuit breaker of a given circuit trips regularly, then it means there's a problem, there's a danger in that circuit. Don't insist on putting it on, but instead start thinking about doing a correctional measure on that circuit, and then you'll be able to be helped. Another thing about knowing the danger signs is the cracking sound. Yeah, you hear some cracking sound. Now, if you are conversant enough, when you hear the cracking sound, go to the consumer unit without switching off the main switch. Switch off one side with all the appliances in the house. Switch one breaker at a go. Switch it off. So the moment you get rid of the sound, the cracking sound, then the circuit breaker that you switched off should remain off until you call on the help of the electrician to come and help you correct some problem in that circuit. Apart from signs of dangers from cracking sound and something else, number B, you need to check for visual defects. That is, before you even start hearing that cracking sound or before the tripping happens, you have to check for the following. Check if the cover of the consumer unit is secure enough. That's number one. Number two, check if all of the wires are covered well. Okay? And if they are also in good condition, that is by seeing by sight. Number three, are any parts of the consumer unit exposed? You have to check for that also. Number four, if the cover of your consumer unit is plastic or PVC, then check if there's a plastic cover that has started to warp, to change shape, that is. And then another last point is, are any areas of the plastic burned? Okay, that is on the consumer unit. Now, we have another kind of thing we need to do in the category of the tips to follow, scheduled periodic inspections. This is very important. Number one, with the age and constant use, it is inevitable that at some point electricals will begin to deteriorate. Deterioration comes with time. Everything has a lifespan, and so is to consumer units and the components in the consumer unit. So you need to check on deteriorating parts of the consumer unit. So you have to be very conversant knowing that after some time you need to put in mind that this consumer unit could be in a point where it has stayed for a long time, and so I need to check for some problems. Number 2, for scheduled periodic inspection. It is important, therefore, to do a scheduled inspection to prevent any associated dangers that are related, that is, any associated dangers with time. So you need to do periodic inspection, and when you do periodic inspection, then you have to check for the points in part B above, which are you check for the cover, if all the wires are covered, if all the wires are secure, if there's any exposed part, if the plastic parts have begun to warp. Yeah, in the scheduled periodic inspection, you have to check for such. And then if you get any of the above problems, be it burnt parts or something, then you have to contact an electrician to come and help you correct that problem that you may have spotted by seeing. And so we need to be very careful when we are using the consumer unit or electricity in general, and conduct periodic inspection. Now, the last point I want to share today is about choosing the right consumer unit. Choosing the right consumer unit depends on the size of the house you are building. That's number 1. If the house is small, then you need to install and fix a smaller consumer unit. I'm assuming that a small house therefore has very few things to be installed there. That's the lighting part and the socket outlet part, especially for single houses that are found in this other part of Kenya mostly. So the consumer unit will depend on the size of the house. And if the house is bigger, it means then that very many or a variety of equipment have to be installed, ranging from lighting, sockets, cookers, water heaters, fans, and even bell sections. So it means you will have to accommodate a number of circuit breakers. So more circuit breakers call for a bigger consumer unit to accommodate the circuit breakers. So it depends with the size of the house you are building. And then you need to consider the purpose of the house you are building also. It may be big, but you're not installing this large equipment inside. Okay, so it also depends with the kind of the house or the purpose of the house you are building. It depends of the kind of the business also you are putting in place. For example, hospitals need larger rooms for x-rays, rooms for diagnostics, and so on. And therefore, it will mean that before you do a consumer unit, when you have larger hospitals like those ones with extractor fans, cooling areas, diagnostics, as I have said, rooms for x-rays, rooms for a lot of things, and also lighting, rooms for wards, it means you will accommodate a lot of bigger rooms. In that case, before you install the consumer unit, because in that case, I know every room will have their own consumer unit, then electricity should have to pass through the distribution board before they are assigned to different consumer units. So what makes you to install what kind of a consumer's unit depends on the purpose of the building, on the purpose of the block. Now, when you are choosing such, you need to employ the expertise of a qualified electrician. It's not your work as a customer, it's not your work as a developer. If you don't have the technical know-how, employ the qualified electrician to help you choose which kind of a consumer unit you should install in your premise. So among many reasons, among many measures to be taken when choosing, I have said about building, the kind of a building and the purpose of a building. If the building is small, that calls for a smaller consumer unit. If the building is bigger, then you have to install a bigger consumer unit. And then it depends on the purpose also. You need to do such. And so to recap, I mentioned something about overcurrent. Overcurrent means any current that would cause the circuit breaker to trip. And so if the circuit breaker trips, it means there has been the overcurrent passing through it, and so it has triggered the circuit breaker to trip. And in such case, you should not put on the circuit breaker manually. You have to check on where the problem is by employing the expertise of a qualified electrician around your area. That one was something I wanted to share with you in this episode. And remember to drop your question on the comment section for me to be able to share a lot from this very, very, very topic. Your questions will inform my address to you. Yes, I'm doing this as introduction, so continue dropping questions. And a lot of you are doing the same. There's one who told me to share and to do more on electrical showers. I have shared on electrical showers before, and can you watch that episode? I'll be able to share it in the link below and show you where that electrical shower episode is. And then when you have a question, then I'll be able to share something that I've never shared before. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching and thank you for your support. See you in the next episode. Have a good time over there.